Hello, everyone. This is Connor, and for my bipolarity/late capitalism event, I did the end of apartheid. From the late 1940s to early 1990s, South Africa was going through a peaceful civil war attempting to end apartheid. Apartheid is the segregation or separation of the quote unquote colored and whites. Three key players played in the role, you could say, in the end of apartheid. One being Nelson Mandela, two being Desmond Tutu, and three being Prime Minister de Klerk. First, we will start with Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela is widely known as the influential advocate for the end of apartheid and becoming the president of South Africa. However, before becoming the president of South Africa, he was very outspoken about his ideas and was against the government's apartheid laws. He gained support from the quote unquote colored community and was elected president. He was important because the very first bill he passed was to sign off on was to get rid of apartheid, ending the discrimination. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts. Here, as said earlier, is Desmond Tutu. Desmond Tutu was also a strong advocate for the independence/anti-apartheid movement. He was a close friend of Mandela's and was very expressive about his opinions, and those opinions soon began to draw international attention. This international attention pressured the South African government. He also was awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize. And lastly, here we have Prime Minister de Klerk. Prime Minister de Klerk was the prime minister in South Africa in the early 1990s before Nelson Mandela was elected. Now, Prime Minister de Klerk saw the accusations and prosecutions coming towards his way once Nelson Mandela was elected and chose to step down before anything bad happened. He was not favored by the black community, but favored by the Afrikaans. Afrikaans are Western colonizers from some 200 years ago, from the late 1700s to early 1800s, who came to South Africa and claimed the land as their own. Here we have a sign that says "Bury Apartheid." Notice that it is held by the children. The anti-apartheid movement was so large that it reached small communities and children, and they were involved increasing the anti-apartheid movement. Here we have May 1st, Anti-Apartheid Day. Now, Anti-Apartheid Day was thought of by Western journalists and the indigenous South Africans who thought that they should have one sole peaceful protesting day that maybe could push the South African government over the edge. And they elected this day to May 1st. On this day, thousands gathered in the streets and, peacefully protested. However, the outcome was not that what it would thought it would be, as the South African government kind of just waved it off. Now, if the apartheid had not stopped, it could have ended like the US did, with a civil war between two very opposite forces with extremely strong core beliefs. Now, this could have spread bloodshed all over South Africa, being detrimental to the continent, not only the country but the continent itself. But as apartheid ended, new opportunities such as business opportunities, because earlier, quote unquote, colored people were not allowed to have their own businesses or conglomerates. But when the anti-apartheid law was passed, these businesses could now hire new people, creating new relationships within communities. Now let's answer the question, how did Cold War ideologies influence apartheid in South Africa while interconnecting the world into the 21st century? Now I'll tell you how. Well, when the USSR was going against America in the Cold War, America and its allies, all of them were against anti-communist governments. Now, South Africa was an anti-communist government, so Western powers such as USA and Great Britain turned a blind eye to the apartheid happening in South Africa. But when the war was over and the USSR collapsed, South Africa no longer had a reason to have the apartheid and oppression, so they received pressure from Western forces and soon saw the outcome that was soon to happen. Let's also answer the question, how does apartheid connect to bipolarity? Well, the obvious answer is the two different thoughts or two different thinking processes. Well, number one, we have the indigenous South Africans who felt it was their right to have their own laws and set up their own government on their homeland, which they have been for thousands of years. While we have the Afrikaans who thought it should be their right to access the land and decide the rules because they had taken over the land for some 200 years now and felt that it was their right to set up the rules because they were the ones who took over the land. Now, in conclusion, you may think, well, this event was extremely successful, but no, today there are still, it was successful, but, yes, it was successful, but today there's still large discrimination today because of the still two opposing forces, as this event only happened 26 years ago. These discriminations, however they are bad, the discrimination is getting less and less. Hopefully, it'll be none in a short time. But the efforts were influential, such as the end of apartheid, to the world's progress of inclusivity and made major strides toward equality.